Hey there, welcome back to another Just a Couple of Jerks. I'm Paul Winstanley, and this week we're chatting with Holly Lehman. Holly chats about how she's had to juggle family and work and everything else that goes with being in lockdown. She also talks about the time that she grew up in Las Vegas and working as a concierge before moving over to Seattle and settling now with a husband. We had a good old chat. It took a couple of attempts to do this, unfortunately, due to some really poor connectivity on the first chat, but we finally made it through. And I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Just a couple of jerks. Oh man, why do I do computing? Is the big question for today. I really appreciate you coming back for this second attempt. Yeah,
Yep, that sounds good.
but you said so. You said you were doing another podcast and it took 4 attempts.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually fun. So I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is called The Current Status with Paulima Schmidt and Teresa Miller. And it's been quiet for a few months now, and they've decided to start it back up again. And it was really fun, but because it was new and some platforms had changed, we were going back and forth between Skype and converting through OBS and then putting it onto YouTube. And it was just different hiccups with tech. And we had a really cool presenter on. And I was so fortunate to be able to be a co presenter or co host. And so that was really fun. And then after, I don't know, a couple tries, we decided to jump over to a different platform and it worked just fine. And it's now live on YouTube. So looking forward to the next opportunity to do that. But the idea is, with all of us working from home, what are some tips and tricks that we can share with each other so that we're all more successful?
Mm. Well, definitely some tips and tricks on how to do podcasting properly would be great.
Yes.
It would be pretty handy. Yeah, I mean, I must check that out actually. There's a lot of new podcasts starting up. Obviously, this is one of them. I mean, this is 9 episodes are live, and I have a few in the bag already. Nice little backlog of people, and I really enjoy doing them. It's it because this is different. Obviously, I mean, I assume the one you did was tech focused. Yeah.
Yes and no. It was really more about we're now in this society where we all, I shouldn't say all, I would say 80% of our Microsoft world was local. And so they would show up to a meeting and you're all in the same conference and you have your meeting and no one worries about their hair and makeup or how they're showing up on video. And now that we're in this new virtual world, what types of technology can we use so that we do show up on camera as ourselves and we have that stage presence without putting too much effort into it? And doing that, we can encourage more people to show up on video, which gives us that humanized feel that we don't get now that we're not all in the same conference room. And so we were talking about what kind of lighting is best. Do men wear makeup? What kind of setting do you have in your home office? Like, what does that look like? What type of mic do you use? Do you not use a mic? It was pieces of technology that we can use, but it wasn't really technology service focused, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
It
really cool.
Yeah, I mean, my wife, she does she does tutoring one to one, and she's had to flip to the world of Skype. Um, and that's new to her. She's not a
Yeah.
techie. She's not, so she's had to learn all this. The kids at the other end seem more savvy with, she's like, I need to move this to here, do that, and they're just often, it's natural for them. Um, but she's gone out and bought all sorts of gizmos to do it. She's got this kind of light ring,
Yeah,
that
so
you
I'm
follow.
getting ready to order one. What kind did she order, just out of curiosity?
Oh, I'll have to ask.
I would love to
I've no
know.
idea. Yeah, I'll find that out for you for sure. And I'm thinking, what is this? And it's all about the lighting, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Ultimately, yeah.
So for
So
me,
I've
I was just gonna say I'm kind of the guinea pig in this podcast group because the two ladies that I was doing the podcast with, they've been doing podcast and virtual sessions and on stage presence for years. And we were talking about how folks like me and your wife, who this is our new reality, it's really overwhelming. Like, what do we use? So right now I'm running everything off of my Surface laptop, which is fine until we start to think about, do I get a mic? Do I get a headset? Do I get lighting? Where's my laptop in my home office? So I have it in front of a window, so I have natural lighting, but not everybody has that. Some people are in their basement or, in a guest bedroom or in their kitchen. And so that's where the whole conversation happened, is all the people out there that are feeling a bit overwhelmed that want to have that proper positive look and feel on calls. Where do we get started? So that was kind of the premise.
that's cool. I'll have to point my wife towards that as well, to check it out. And I need to take a look. But ultimately, I'm not doing video on this, which is was never the intention to do any video. It was always I wanted to do a chat audio thing, um, and it's had its challenges as you know. So you're back for part two. We spoke a couple of weeks ago, and we had all sorts of problems. And but you're back for this. So and thanks for coming back. But this is slightly different from the podcasts that have been springing up. I think maybe in the tech world, in that we don't deep dive into tech. We're just chatting away and talking about things that make us tick, things that we struggle with, we work well for us, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it because ultimately the people I'm talking to, I know a little bit, or in your case, I don't know you that well at all. And we just learn about each other, and I think that's quite. I was actually listening to the episode that came out today in the garden today, um, and enjoying it for what it was. So Holly Lehman, thanks for joining me again uh, for this episode of Just a Couple of Jerks.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, and as I said, as I say to everyone, we're not jerks really. It's just a way of humanising us in this world of IT, because as MVPs, as people in the community who kind of get this famous feel, we're out there. People know us by name, by image. We get put on a little pedestal, so it's just humanising us to make us um, everyday people ultimately, because that's what we are, and we're struggling through day by day. So Holly, you're based out in Seattle. You're with Microsoft. Um, Tell us a little bit about that setup there. You obviously we're all in this lockdown situation. And I saw the news of Microsoft implementing that very well, very successfully. Did you get the news of lockdown, and how did it change for you? To change the way that you work?
It's so funny. It feels like a blur, to be honest. I feel very thankful to work for Microsoft and to have a management team that was so efficient in, making sure that we're protected, taken care of, from an emotional and technical side of it. But it happened so quickly. And I remember I was in Mexico on a family vacation when I found out that, the COVID-19 was really a big deal where we were at. We were at the time a hotspot. And when I got back into town, I said, I'm going to go into the office and just get a few things and touch base with my manager. And shortly after, I got a text and an email from my direct manager and the management team basically saying, you know what, your safety is more important. COVID-19, we were still learning about like really how impactful it was going to be on our community. And so it felt a bit more over the top than necessary. And now looking back, I'm so thankful because we found out that somebody in the building across from me actually had COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah. And so they basically just said, hey, if you need something in the office, go get it. Otherwise, work from home and kind of get yourself set up. And they gave us from a CVP line of thought was they sent out an email saying, hey, if you need time to set up your office, if you need time to run some errands and get your kids set up for school and get yourself set up, like whatever you need, we will make arrangements so that you're set for success. And I just thought the way they handled it was so kind, and it really does show Satya's view of not just customer but employee obsession and empathy for what we were all about to deal with, and we had no idea how it was going to land.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty incredible foresight, really, isn't it? Because, as you said just then, we didn't really know at all.
We had
But they
no
were
idea.
no, God, no, and it's still well, it's totally a learning process, the whole thing, isn't it? As we live through it, um, but they were quick to implement this, and they seemed um, very good with their staff. I mean, I was reading. Um, some news about that they were still going to pay. So you have all these people who shuttle you around all the time, and obviously their
Hmm.
jobs suddenly become redundant. But they were going to cover all the pay for those rather than lay them off. And that's the kind of news you wanted to hear. Right? It's just encouraging that Microsoft were quick to act, and also encouraging it reduces the stress for yourself, doesn't it?
It did, and I have to say, like going back to what you just said, one of my closest friends, her son is a vendor for our cafes, and he works in one of the buildings. And I talk to him all the time. He's still being paid by Microsoft as a vendor, although not able to work. And so it just shows that they don't want this heightened fear of, do I go find a job? Am I going to be okay? How can I protect my family? And it just showed the kindness, and how thankful, like privileged I feel to say that I work at Microsoft. But also for me, it showed how relevant tech is when everybody, unfortunately, like my own husband, he had two jobs. He lost both of his jobs. And due to COVID-19, thankfully he's back at one of them. But I had this feeling of like, I can breathe. Yes, it's stressful doing homeschooling for two little kids and doing my job, but I still have a job. And there was no point where I felt like, oh gosh, like, am I going to be out of a job? No, I work in tech, and the partners, so I work on the partner team. The partners that I was talking to were like, no, we're doing more with tech now that COVID is happening, because we can be broader, we can be global, we can be virtual, and people see the need now more than ever to be safe and secure in their use of our, I work for Azure, so Azure services in the cloud. And so I just thought, gosh, what a cool job do I have that I can continue to literally work any place, anytime, in a safe, compliant manner, and still be an asset to my company and to the partners and customers that I work with.
Yeah, it changes your outlook, doesn't it, on that role that you have. I mean, I had some impact from lockdown, so I had a couple of customers where things dried up very quickly because I was working on certain projects, but those projects weren't deemed as necessary because they were very quickly looking at business continuity, and that was
Hmm.
key for them. Um, but I always knew that so you kind of go, "Oh, okay, I reduce what I'm doing," but the outlook was always okay, but that work will ramp back up again because I'm in a position where certain things are needed and things need to keep ticking over. And that sort of Azure cloud based stuff that you mentioned, I mean, that's exactly where things are heading for the customers that I'm working with. um, the cloud management gateway, for example, with SCCM is a perfect example. Everyone's suddenly wanting to implement that, and a huge uptake in that being implemented. But
Well, even did you see the recent endpoint zone with Brad Anderson? It was not this one, but gosh, what month is it? May. It was the April recording where, sorry, that's all blending in together, but it was the April recording where how quickly Brad Anderson was talking about, hey, people want to know, like, VPNs crashing, what's going on? Here's how we get them up to speed. Here's how they can be safe and compliant. here's what's happening real time. And I just thought the fact that now that everybody's working from home, they immediately saw the impact of everybody, you know, doing VPN to get in, and how everything was just a bit chaotic, and the team was just so quick and rapid response to get it addressed, get a fix, get a resolution, and here's how you continue. I thought it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, with a perspective on what you do, you're in the middle of all that. You're grateful that you have that job and you're able to continue with that. And as you look at people who are working in theatres, clubs, bars, this sort of thing, and it's a it's a huge impact for them. We're very lucky to be in the position we're in. Um, so you mentioned homeschooling. That's obviously adds to that stress of work from home. How are you coping with that? Is it the two children you say?
Yeah, so I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I'm gonna be really honest to all the moms and dads out there. It is tough. I honestly, like, never thought, like, there was no inclination in my heart to ever want to homeschool because I don't have the patience to do what these amazing humans that we call teachers do. And when we were told to start this work from home, I just felt like my heart drop because I don't want to let these little humans down. And also, this new way of learning is so different from what I know that I have to I thought, what is a pronoun again? Wait, what is, hold on. What are we talking about? There's friends of families for I don't even know about fractions anymore. And so it's a learning curve from a patience, from an uptake, from a technology standpoint. Um, I envy and really empathize these teachers that are trying so hard to jump on the technology bandwagon that they don't know. They do cutouts and they do paperwork and they do art projects and they're hands on. And now they're being told, like, go figure out all these different websites, go upload all these different projects, go do these Zoom meetings with 20 kids. It's just complete chaos. And then over here, the parents that are like, well, we're still trying to do our job and be effective. And so I've learned balance. Like, I am really hard on myself and I've had to learn. And I would say to all the parents out there, like, give 100%, but it doesn't mean it's going to look like the 100% you know of, and be okay with that. And it's a tough learning lesson, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how you cope with it because I've got four kids. I mean, my eldest is at uni, but my youngest daughter, she's coming up to 13, so she's kind of self-sufficient in, you know, to a degree. When it comes to doing the homework and the schoolwork, so yeah, there's occasional questions asked. She's not too sure about this or that, but she's very good at getting up on time, logging in, cracking on with it. But when it comes to those younger kids, like the age of your children, do you have to get a routine in place for them? I mean, how do you do
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so I have to say that when we decided to work from home, no, not decided, but as we were directed, thankfully, I did a bunch of research. Have always been on site with all of my jobs. And so to now be told to work from home, I thought, how can I be successful? What are some tips and tricks I needed? And I actually implemented those with my children. And so for me, it was, Holly, get up every day, get your makeup on, get a new outfit on, put your tennis shoes on, like, be at work, be present. And I do the same with my children. So they know school starts at 9:30. You get up, we're gonna get breakfast, we're gonna get hair brushed, teeth brushed, fresh outfit on. They each have a daily schedule that I create for them because I do supplementary schoolwork because these kids blow through the online work so quick. And it's important for me that next year they still know what, like, a 9 to 3 schedule is so they don't go into complete culture shock. And so, yeah, I handwrite every day. They get a handwritten, every 30 minute schedule as to where they need to be. And I have to think about, are they on a device too much? Are they doing too much screen time? What are they learning and how do I make it fun? And how do I keep them busy so that I can still do my job and get them on their Zoom meetings and then manage my calendar? And so, yeah, I found that having a schedule having a routine, and helping them to stick to it to the best of their ability has been helpful because now they wake up, Mom, is today's school? Yep, today's Wednesday. Okay, 9:30 we start, right? Yep, it's 9 o'clock. So let's get breakfast. And it has helped them tremendously.
No, that's really good actually, and I heard them pattering away in the background there.
Yes.
Um, so I love the little sound of the kids running up and down stairs or whatever it is. Yeah, mine have grown up a little bit more now, so I miss that pitter patter. Um, and it's tricky for them, isn't it? Because this is I mean, it's an alien thing for us, the lockdown and the virus situation in general. But I mean, for young children, what's their awareness of that? How do you talk to them about that?
So it's interesting. Of course, when this whole thing happened, it was like news overload in my house, and to the point that at one point my daughter came to me and she said, "Mom, can we turn the TV off for a little bit?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Is it because you're just done listening to the news?" Or I said, "Is it causing you anxiety? Like, are you feeling a bit sad?" And she said, "Yeah, Mommy, it's making me really sad." And I said, "Okay, happy to change it, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about what this is." And so we went for a walk, and we have a little play structure outside of my home. It's a community based, and we're going for a walk. And I said, "So do you understand why you can't go play on the playground? Do you understand why we can't give our little friends hugs as hard as it is?" And I wanted to reach her heart. Instead of just saying no, I always try to give my kids an explanation so that they understand. And the response that my 7-year-old gave me, I was blown away by. She just said, "Yep, Mom, you know what? This coronavirus, it's making people really sick. And if someone's touched the play place, we don't know how long the germs are on there. And then if we touch it, we bring it home and then we get sick and we don't want our family sick. So we're okay. We can do," and she needed like four other things that she can do with her sister. Play tag with her sister, ride a bike, go for a walk, all these things. And I thought, you know what? I'm so happy that she does understand and that her little brain is already going, hey, here's some alternative things that we can do to make this okay for right now.
Oh, that's lovely. That I like, it's and she's 9, you say.
That was my 7-year old. No,
Oh,
that
your
was my
7-year-old.
7-year old.
Oh my God, that's really
Yeah.
mature of her. And yeah, I mean, and you don't want this to affect them, do you? Long term.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
if
I would
we,
I would say it differently. I would say I do want it to affect them in the sense that I want them to value the friendships that they have and how quickly we can be disconnected from other humans that we love. And I also want them to see that sometimes the new reality is not what we think, and we have to be able to jump into a new way of life and thinking and schedule and adapt in the most positive way that we possibly can.
yeah, adapt is exactly the word I was going to say there. Um, but you don't want the anxiety, do you? That's the thing I'm stressing there. That you don't want them to worry. They've got to be able, it's great that she's going, yeah, I understand this and that, and she's not worried. It's not, it doesn't become, you know, a weight on her as such. And yeah, for a 7-year-old, I think that's absolutely brilliant the way she's handling that. So you've been with Microsoft for a little while now, but you're not originally in from an IT background, are you? You grew up in Las Vegas.
I did. I did. I grew up in Las Vegas, born and raised. Went to college at UNLV, and I actually started in hospitality and worked at many of the hotels, front desk, concierge, you name it. I really enjoyed the hustle, bustle, chaos. I loved creating moments and memories. I loved figuring out a way of politely telling somebody a no with a yes. Like it's just the human ability to communicate and connect. I love. I eat it up. And I did. I started in hospitality, and then I was actually in law enforcement for about 8 years, doing all kinds of administrative support. Um, I did booking and releasing. I did all kinds of things, and then we ended up finding out that we were going to have a little baby, and decided to migrate back to where my husband's from, and so that's what brought us to Seattle. But I did not have a tech background, and when I got here, I did work for a hotel. I ran the front of house department for about a year. And then when I left to go on maternity leave, I realized like I needed something that was going to give me a career, but also stability. Hospitality is the chaos that I love, but I also hate because you're working weekends, nights, all kinds of things, and I wanted to make sure that I was home with my baby. And I also wanted to show them that you could have a career and be a mom. And so that's how I ended up at Microsoft. Yeah.
Okay. And Vegas, I mean, what's it? I mean, I've never been. Okay, so I've only ever been to the States twice, and that both times were to come to Microsoft for the summit. So what's it like growing up in Vegas? I mean, you hear lots of stories about the place and the excesses and all this kind of thing. So you were born there, grew up there, the whole life up until moving to Seattle.
Yeah, so I remember running around hotels when I was 3 years old because my mom worked at the Dunes, which is now long gone.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, is it?
and
Right.
yeah, no, it's been gone for a while now, but I remember running around the Dunes and running around Caesar's Palace as a little one, and it's different, right? So growing up there, you go to the strip to do your job or to have a nice meal or where people go to vacation, and growing up there, like we that was it. We went home at the end of the day and I went to church and I had my friends in the neighborhood and we had barbecues and we had family vacations and went camping, and it wasn't the draw that you get when people say, oh, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But now it's funny, I hadn't been there for, I would say, 5 years, and I just recently went to Vegas for work, and I felt like so out of my element. The sounds and the lights and the way people were dressed just overwhelmed me. And I said, "This isn't the same feeling that I felt growing up here and living here. It was just totally part of the norm." And I went to work and I did my thing, and I almost felt like we were all actors. Like as soon as we got into the hotel, we put our game face on and we did our job, and then I went home and I cleaned my house and did my chores and had family dinners and had a very normal, healthy, happy growing up. It
Yeah.
wasn't what people think. Like I said, I went to church and I went to college and I got a bachelor's degree and I had great jobs, but it was the environment that I knew, and I had a very healthy, happy family and very healthy uh, community around me.
Yeah. So, excuse my ignorance then. So Vegas is right in the middle of the desert. Is
Hmm.
that right? But
That's
but the
correct.
surrounding area. So is it just the city and it's I assume it's fairly big. But do you live close to that, or is because there's nothing around it?
Yeah, there's really not much around. So the way I felt like it was kind of like you were in a bowl, and the strip is somewhat in the middle of the bowl, and then outside of the strip, if you drive about 20 minutes either way, you literally just go to normal communities and normal neighborhoods, and a lot of the activity at on the weekends or downtime is just like here. It's barbecues, or we would go into Mount Charleston to go hiking, or we would do camping trips with our friends and family. But really, you go to the strip either to work or because someone's here on a vacay and you are there to play tourist. Yeah.
Right, right. And I suppose going back to it, as you mentioned, you'd not been there for a while, so the lights were something you weren't used to. And it's suddenly thrown back into the middle of all that, thinking, "Oh, right, okay, it's not what I thought it was." As you say, it's different. When you live somewhere, you're kind of oblivious to it. Maybe would that seem right, or am I completely wide of the mark?
I mean, it's just different, right? Here, it's a lot more laid back, in my opinion. There's not as much sensory going on as there is in Vegas. You go into Vegas and the brighter the light and the louder the sound, you're going to be more aware of it. And that's the restaurant you want to go to, or that's the club that you want to go have a drink at, or the bar that you want to meet your friends at. And so it's just, for me, here, it was just more of a family, comfortable, a bit more relaxed way of life. And I hadn't been around all the hustle and bustle in so long that it was
Right.
exhausting at the end of the day. I wasn't used to it.
Yeah, yeah. Thrust back into it thinking, "What the heck's going on?"
Yes, yes.
So you moved out with so your husband or partner at the time, whichever, because that's where he grew up, yeah?
Yeah, he grew up in Woodinville, that's right.
Right, okay. So did you say you moved back to do a job, or he came back to do a job?
Yeah, no, I moved here. I was hired by a company, and I worked at a hotel downtown, and it was such a fun job because I was there basically to train the front of house team, and it was so enjoyable because it was a fairly new team, and so I got to bring some of my hospitality background to Seattle and feel like, hey, I'm kind of the SME over here at this for because you feel like a fish out of water. But it was something that I loved, and I do have a passion around community and hospitality and the people that I work with, and really driving positive experiences. And so that was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It was hard to leave, but the stability and comfort that you get at Microsoft, you know when you're working, you know what your job is, you know that you can work with your manager to make a schedule that will allocate work life balance and things like that. And so that was really what brought me to Microsoft. And I was there as an admin for 2 years. I had my second daughter and decided to leave for a few years. And I decided upon my leave that I wanted to come back as a PM, a non technical PM. And that's not easy. It's not easy to change a career like that and to have an ability to go back to Microsoft as a PM and still use my skill set. It was really exciting because that's when I realized that you can be in tech and not necessarily quote unquote technical. There are skills out there that everybody has that become an asset. Not everybody needs to code. Not everybody needs to be a great organizational leader. Not everybody needs to be able to multitask, but it's taking all of the different traits and personalities and skills. And when you bring them all together, like Microsoft does, you then become a very impactful, effective, driven team.
Yeah, I mean it's for yourself. I mean, as you say, you're a people person, aren't you? You that
Mhm.
so for your job, it's lots of interaction. Is it gathering information for people in the company when you're speaking to customers, that sort of thing, and passing that info through?
Yeah, so yeah, long story short, what I like to convey is that what I love about the team that I'm currently on is that we are the customer experience team. And not only do we get, so I personally work with a hand selected group of partners that I've really come to adore. They're just amazing humans. What our MVP community and our partner community does for our customers and to drive successful integration with Microsoft technologies and services, I just think is amazing. But not only am I there to showcase the work that our partners are doing and to get questions answered for them, but we also have this piece of feedback that our team specifically does. And I'm sure we've all been to, tech events where they say thanks for the feedback and you don't see anybody writing anything down and you don't see anybody following up, and you wonder, like, is it going into this black hole? Like, what is happening with this feedback that you said was so amazing? And so my job really is not just mine, but my team. We are here to work with customers, partners, and different research teams within Microsoft to coalesce feedback from our different communities and then share that back with the engineering team so that they can review it, prioritize it, get various customer and partners technical scenarios, not just what they're hearing. But this way, we're able to give them a more holistic view of, hey, here's all kinds of feedback that's coming in, and it's technical and it's descriptive and it's validated and viable. And so it's something that we can now say, thanks for your feedback, but here's what we're doing with it. And that's where I think we have a huge impact into Microsoft services because we are saying we hear it, we're doing something with it, and we're sharing it along to the right ears.
Yeah, and it's changed so massively, hasn't it? In the last, well, it's to me it has now, in the last 5 years or so, where we've had this shift towards the service models. And back in the day, we would, as config manager, for example, we would have a release, and we'd be then waiting for maybe a service pack and something, another hot fix
Update
or something.
Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yep.
we wouldn't if we wanted a feature, it would be okay. You might see this in 2, 3, 4 years time. Now
Mhm.
it's it, the service model has shifted things tremendously to this ability to feedback, to provide user voice comments on via the web, and for that to be put back to the product group in the way that you're saying, so that everything changes, and you could just suggest something. It could be something simple. There should be a tick box here, or and they go, actually, that's a good idea. Or these dashboards shouldn't be there; they should be here. And Microsoft are listening. That's a massive shift. O- would you say it's the last 5 years? Am I right in that, or am I
Yeah.
just? Yeah.
No, the reason that I'm in such so I don't even know if you know this about me, but when I came back to Microsoft 5.5 years ago, I actually came back to Intune and SCCM. That was the team I was
Mm.
on.
You're on
And
the MVP program as well. Is that right? I
I
think.
a little bit, yeah. I helped with I helped do some event stuff with the MVPs, and then I included the MVPs into the work that I was doing because I do have this passion around the MVP community. And I would be at the MVP events. I helped do a lot of the agendas and things like that. But going back to your point, where I completely agree that it was about 5 years ago, is because I was brought on to help support this newly founded customer connection program for Intune. And at the time, it was just like, what are we doing? Do we need this program? Why am I going to these events? It's another presentation. And then as our team started to work with these programs, it was like, oh, now I see why this is so impactful, because we'll use the blue button concept. They were using the blue button to deploy this, but I was using the blue button to provide this, and they got to have that one-to-one relationship with these customers. And so when we saw the value there, we extended it to the SCCM side of it, and slowly you just started to see all of these customer programs pop up everywhere. I mean, look at the Windows Insiders program. It's huge, it's massive, and it's impactful because these Windows Insiders are willing to do all the testing and share the bugs, and give the repros and use user voice, and use their voice into making our products better. And so I think that Satya has really seen the value add of having these customer programs and driving community engagement. We have customer MVP and partners, and they're just amazing. I always say that the MVPs are these unsung heroes that, by day they're doing one job in tech, and then on their own time, they have another hat where they're doing their passion to still support tech and make people better. I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's one of the questions I ask people on the podcast. How much time do you spend in this MVP capacity? Because it is a second job at times,
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
and a lot of the things that we do don't even end up being shared at times. So
It's
it could
not.
just be something, you could just be tinkering away in the background in the lab for hours and hours and hours, and you're not particularly writing a blog post about it. You're not particularly doing a webinar or a presentation or whatever. You're just mucking about. And you don't you don't mention that on your, because we have to do our renewals and things. We have to go through that process, but half the time that stuff doesn't get logged. It's, and you think, okay, really is a second job in effect. But you sort of said it before. It's done for a reason, and that reason is the passion for what you do. We wouldn't be doing this otherwise. It would be pointless, wouldn't it, if you didn't enjoy it, to be spending so much time on it. So, what for
Well, and that's
yourself
what
then,
I
Holly?
that's what I
What are
love
your?
about the community. That's where sorry, but that's where I think they're just amazing humans. Is when you go to an MVP summit or MMS or any of these tech events with MVPs and partners, you see them with a smile on their face, and you don't hear them being negative. They're so positive and they're so energetic because this is their passion. And I think that there's a passion out there for everyone. And when you find that passion, whether it's community, so for me it's community, for other people it's writing, it's learning an instrument, it's tech, whatever it is, when you find that, it's invigorating to talk to people about what their passion is because it's such a positive energy.
Yeah, and it's almost yeah, that passion as such, because it doesn't become a chore, does it? Because you're so I could be tinkering away for hours on something, and it's not like I'm going, oh God, I've got to have to do this now. Um, as I said before, I wouldn't be doing it otherwise. That's the thing. So I was playing just before coming on the call. I was doing something and I was taking some screenshots here and there, and I thought, oh, I've got to stop now. We're gonna be chatting in a bit. So when it comes to sort of passions and things, Holly, you mentioned your passion for the community. What's your kind of things that you do when you switching off from Microsoft and IT and that sort of thing? What's your interests outside of?
I would say it's a few things. Yeah, it's a few things, and this will, I'm sure, hit home for a lot of parents out there. Working from home, I realized that I get up early, make my kids breakfast, sit in this chair that I'm in right now. I might get up for 5 minutes to get lunch, but I'm in this chair a lot more than I would like. And so, but it's because you just get, like you said, you get focused on something and you just get at it, and all of a sudden, a couple hours have gone by, and so my one of my passions is my children. And so I've had to, going back to the schedule we talked about, I hit a certain time of the day and that's it. Unless there's something absolutely on fire, I shut off and I become a mom. I take my kids for a walk. I check on, what they're watching. I chat with them. We talk about dinner. We cook together. I love to cook. I've really, with this whole work from home, living from home, Groundhog Day situation, I really started to enjoy cooking. And so my passion is around my children and really involving them in whatever I do. So that's one, and the other for me, because I can't seem to shut this community engagement off. I really enjoy staying in contact on, so for me, social presence has become huge. And I say that not from a visibility, but from this like human contact that in some ways we're losing. It allows me to stay in touch with so many people. It allows me to stay abreast of any new technology that's out there. And I have the choice to read it or not, to your point, right? Like, and so I've also met a ton of people that I now consider really dear friends, by way of social. And for me, it's been, LinkedIn and Twitter. And I found myself going more away from other social forums a bit. But yeah, I would say for me, community is engaging, it's energizing. And then, of course, as a mom, my kids are my passion. So I do try to give 100% when I'm logged on and doing my job. And then when that certain time of day hits, my other passion is my children. And then it's always around community.
Well, that is another full-time job, isn't it? Being a parent, it's
Hmm.
one once you're in there, that's not one you can escape from, is it at all? And it brings a lot of joy. It brings a lot of heartache at times as well. But I'm interested in this cooking thing that you mentioned. Then, so is this something that you're just getting the kids involved, or is it just you've just gone, okay, let's try some new things?
So it was a few things. One, it was a way to talk with them during the day. I found that if I would, one at a time, it was a bit chaotic for me to have both of them helping me, but it was a way to have that one-to-one bonding time with them. And it also got them, so years ago, my kids were super picky eaters. And so I started to say, "Hey, do you want to cook this with me? Then you know what's in it. Then we can figure out what you do and don't like and why." And then it turned into help me meal plan for the week. So it keeps us on a budget. It keeps us eating healthy. But I also say, "Well, you pick this. So don't tell me you don't want to eat dinner because you help me decide what we're eating this week." And it also helped teach them, the stress of cooking and the cost of cooking and the joys of cooking and how I enjoy providing that to my family and getting them involved. And then it turned into little conversations that would happen during that one-to-one time together where they just would tell me their little thoughts and ideas and what was happening in their world. So there's a few different things happening. And then with COVID, now that we're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home, I found that I needed to get some new dishes on the table so that we weren't so bored. And that's fun too, right? Like we kind of laugh at some of the meals that were just absolutely we're not doing that one again. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. You gave it a go. That's the thing,
Yes.
isn't it? If they're
Yes.
pushing the plate away, it's like, you can try and tease them back to it, but, well, you tried it. I mean, I cook at the in the house here, and, as I say, 4 children. We also look after my brother-in-law who has Down syndrome. So I have to feed for 6, 6 of us because my eldest is not here, and you can't please them all. Their tastes are broadening as they get older, which is great because we had to reduce everything to basics. They want you, as you say, or you tell them what's in it, but they go, "Oh, no, I'm not eating broccoli, or I'm not eating carrots," or you know. But as they get older, okay. They want to have some coriander with this, and they want to try this and that. But I've had so many comments recently of like, "Oh, it's not pasta again, is it?" It's like it's easy to repeat those dishes, isn't it? Because you can cook them, you know how to do them. But they want, it's because you're eating, as you say, breakfast, dinner, lunch. Um, it's you're doing it all, so you've got to think of variety. And what's been the pleasurable things they've done then when they've been cooking with you? Is it being a case of they just like getting messy, or is there certain dishes they go, "Oh, we love this one, mum"?
Thankfully, I've had more "we love this one" than not. I'm pretty excited about that. I love to see their little faces when, "Oh, this is my favorite dish. I love this dish," and to see them start to have a palate. The fact that well, when we can go out to eat, ordering, various dishes that most would completely turn their nose at, I think it's helped them grow and mature a bit. But I think for me, it was just spending time with them, but also getting them involved in like, hey, this is part of life. Like we have to cook, we have to eat healthy, we got to clean up after, and just laughing and I love being around my kids, doing things with them, and helping to watch them grow. Yeah.
And as you say, I mean, it's dangerous now with the amount of screen time they're needing.
Mhm.
That everything is now online with the classes and everything. So you're trying to monitor that. This is a way to get them away from that, isn't it? To
Yes.
get them chatting and get them round the table. And what's it like at the end of the day then? Is it, are they burnt out at the end of the day? Is it trying to get them to bed? Are they pretty decent at that sort of thing?
The end of the day to me is my favorite because it's the one time of the day where I'm kind of shut off from work. We do sit around the table and we do talk about the happiest and saddest part of our day. And then at the end of the day, we're very routine in this house. So it's, shower time, bath time, bedtime. Everybody's in bed between 8 and 9 because school's tomorrow and this and that. Now that we are home a bit more, it's always, "Mom, can we just have 30 more minutes, playing outside?" And you know what? That's fine. I love seeing my kids outside on a bike, playing with chalk and getting dirty. And we did just get a new puppy, so they're always out there with the puppy.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen the pictures of the puppy.
yeah.
Excuse me, on Twitter there. So this is a one you bought, is it a new puppy? Yeah.
Yes, yes, we did. We were watching the news, and it kept saying, "If you're going to get a puppy, now's the time. Everybody's home." And
Okay.
my daughter heard it, and that was the end of that. So we did. We surprised her and got a little puppy. And this little ball of fur, this 3 pound ball of fur, has given us so much joy and laughter and positive distraction. And it's, I think, what my family needed. They're out there right now, running around the house, chasing each other, and Poppy's barking, and they're running, and it's enjoyable. Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah. So you say you've got space to kind of throw them out as well. Then they've got that space to roam outside a little bit.
We do, yeah. It's nice. We're in a community where we don't have the biggest backyard, but we have a huge community space with grass and place to like ride bikes. And one day they'll be back on the play structure. But no, it's really nice. And thankfully we have lovely neighbors, and we all kind of look out for each other. And so it's nice to see the kids outside. And I always a little bit more lenient with the TV time and screen time during the winter, but during the summer, it's the sun's out, year out, and I found that now that they're getting older, I have to be more aware of, what are you watching? How long have you been on YouTube? What are you watching on YouTube? Because that one wrong click goes down a rabbit hole. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's never easy, that side of things, and the demands and the requests for technology
Yes.
start to increase as well, don't they? They sort of go, okay, I'm this age now. When am I going to get a phone?
Oh,
Where
yeah,
do you?
my 9-year-old just keeps asking me, and I said, "Yeah, you don't need a phone. You're 9. Like, let's take this down a notch."
Yeah, we're quite strict with that, and my daughter's still asking us, and all her friends at school have got one, and she's coming up to 13 soon, and it's a hard one, isn't it? Because as soon as you give them that, it's always a smartphone these days, and it's so the access is there. They've got the whole thing, and it can be horrible for them at times because they just don't come off the. I mean, we're bad enough as adults. We don't come off these things. We're constantly tapping on them, but kids, it's just sort of glued to their hand, isn't it?
Yeah, I have I have a friend, and her daughter, I can't even have a conversation with her without her putting the phone down, and because we're close enough, I have no issues just saying, "Okay, can you put the phone down and talk to me? Just give me 2 minutes. You don't need." And but I'm bad too, right? Like I love that option to look at your weekly screen time report, and it's good when I see my screen time's gone down a bit. I'm like, okay, be more aware of how much you're on it. And I've also had to be more aware around my kids how much I'm on it and let them know there are times when I'm on it that maybe I don't need to be, but there are times that I'm working on my phone, and I think it's showing our kids that just because we're on our phone doesn't mean that we're playing all the time. Yes, there is that, social piece that of course we're all doing. But now that we can work from any place, anytime, in a safe, secure, compliant manner, sometimes that way of working is on our phone. And I'm trying to help my children understand, like, if I say give me a minute, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you, but I might be in the middle of doing something for work, and it's about showing respect for each other's time, for theirs and mine. So for them, I have to be aware, what am I doing on my phone when I'm engaged with my kids? Is it work? Is it not? Is that something I have to do right now? Can I wait a minute? So there's a lot happening.
Yeah. So again, it's another tricky balance, isn't it? Getting that right. I don't think you can get it right. I think you just got to do your best with that one because it's so tricky. Getting emails late at night from work, and should I be answering these sort of thing? And okay, prioritize it, work it out. But the kids will always look at you and go, "Come off the phone, Dad." So, yeah, it's a tricky one. But okay, so when it comes to the kids in bed, is it a sigh of relief? Is it sort of like, oh, relax now? Or is it a case of, oh, I'm shattered now? It's time. I've got to go to bed.
A little bit of both. We are a funny family. You never know what bed someone's going to be in. The kids do sleepovers. They sleep with me, middle of the night. People are switching beds. So usually by the end of the day, especially now that we're all together constantly, I'm pretty shot at the end of the day. I'm not gonna lie. I think any parent, especially working and homeschooling and doing the other responsibilities to keep a house together, it I'm burnt by the end of the day. But I've also found that for me, I try to find at least 30 minutes at some point, 15, 30 minutes where I can be by myself, even if that means just running to the grocery store or a quick lap outside. But I've also learned my kids need it too. So they're in this new situation where they love their sister, but they're now around each other 24/7, and they've been doing a good job, but like every sibling, they fight. And so I've learned, like, hey, you know what, either my husband or I will take one of the kids and do something with them where they separate for the day, because I've realized that we forget kids are taking all this in too. It's not just us, and we're more mature and can get our brain wrapped around it in some ways, but they also need an outlet too. So to have them at home around each other, I've realized that for my kids, all I can do is talk for my experience. I need to be respectful of their emotional well being, and that they might not be able to explain the fears and frustrations and stress and anxiety that all this has brought on them. And so I've tried to learn how to say, okay, let's give you a little downtime too.
Yeah, that makes total sense, doesn't it? Just to do that, really. I mean, the hard thing is that we can all get tired and exhausted from things as well, and we can get irritable. And it's just, it, as I said, it's a real balance. I mean, as you know, my wife hadn't been too well recently, so I've been, there's the dog
Yep.
chatting away. So I've been running around, and it's hard. It's hard. At the end of the day, you just
Sorry.
that's that's brilliant. Um, I'm just listening to the fun that's going on in the background. It's
Oh,
brilliant.
yeah, they're running around the house. They're trying to she's really tiny. She's a Shih Tzu Maltese, and it's like when your baby slowly learns how to crawl up the stairs, you just panic because it's one more thing you have to watch for. I'm trying to keep Poppy from learning how to go up and down the stairs, and my kids are um, really working hard to teach her how to do that. So now there's more areas for me to go find. It's like, no, keep her on the wood floor. It's easier to clean. But
I don't know how you find the time to get down to the work, but no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So, how long have you been with Microsoft then, Holly? Is it you say you had one little stint with them and then you came back?
yeah,
You've
so
been there quite a while.
total. Yeah, so total, I was, it's been about 7.5 years now. So 2 years, and then went on a 2 year hiatus, and I've been back now for almost 6 years. So yeah, it's been a good go.
How do you think they're going to reintroduce people going back into the office then? Is that because obviously now we have this option to work remotely, and we have this ability thanks to Microsoft and others ramping up this ability for us to communicate online.
Yeah, the last, so I'm going to back up a minute. I have to say, from our senior leadership, it's been really amazing. We get, when this whole thing first happened, we got daily emails, CVP and higher level, giving us updates on Microsoft Global. And every single time it would say, do not go in to your office unless instructed by your manager. We need to make accommodations from work from home. Here's all the things that we're doing to make you successful. So the communication standpoint has been absolutely amazing. It's been positive, articulate, and gives positive reasons for taking care of your own mental well-being, and not to kind of put that to the side. So that I really am appreciative for. In the last communication that we had, like with Amazon, our instruction has been work from home until October. Now that, that's more broad. It might be different within different geolocations, but from a broad standpoint, it's been till October. My team is thinking about maybe possibly midsummer the ability to go back. But where we're at, I'm in an open space, and if you think about the social distance guideline, there's no way I can go back into that space based on the current configuration and layout. So I know that they are going to be doing changing office allocation, office space. I think it's going to become more of a remote work look and feel, and that it's not going to be 5 days in the office. I think it's going to be more like a 2 days and 3 day situation where we all take the time to work from home on a separate basis. And then we slowly migrate back into the office, and it's going to be tough, right? Like, you're going to have different, you've got the hand sanitizing stations, you've got mass setup, you've got, one direction arrows going, you've got new layouts, new space setup. So it's going to be a new norm. We're definitely not going back to the old way at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to change things dramatically, isn't it? And it's going to be interesting to see how different places cope with that. I mean, when it comes to the day-to-day stuff for yourselves, then, when it comes to collecting the groceries. Is that a simple task for you?
No.
Are you how do they handle it over there?
So I don't know if you saw a tweet I did the other day, but I actually went grocery shopping and I came home. I mean, I'm going to say depressed. I came back really sad. Like, we have this mindset of we're in this together, but for my experience, and again, I always want to be clear that this is my feeling. Um, I would disagree. I mean, we're all walking around gloved and masked, and everyone is understandably this hindrance of any kind of contact with one another. And I just felt like it was so sanitized and so disconnected from one another. And then, every day it's different. So before, it was when you went to the store, you were, asked to wear a mask, and you didn't have to. You got this crazy death stares if you didn't. But the newest is the arrows saying, one way direction. And this guy yelled at me in front of my children for not going the right way down a one way grocery aisle. And I just thought, it's so sad because this is new. We all have to give each other a level of grace and patience, because every day it's something new that's being implemented that we may or may not be aware of. So for me, I am a full-time working mom, homeschooling two kids with all the responsibilities of day-to-day life with or without COVID. So there's a lot going on in our head, and I think we need to give each other a bit of kindness and a bit more patience. Um, because we don't know what's going on in someone else's head. I mean, granted, we need to be respectful of each other's safety and identifying and being proactive with the guidelines that are being given from the government. But I do think that we need to give each other a little bit of grace too. And I think we're forgetting that piece of it.
Yeah, it could just be a simple little mistake, couldn't it?
Oh, I didn't even
But
realize.
just
I didn't even realize there was a big arrow on the floor. I was with my daughter. We were chatting. I had my grocery list. I was thinking about all the things I needed to do, and then get home and do this and that. And the last thing I was thinking of what's on the ground.
yeah, yeah, and so you don't need that. It could be just be pointed out to you, and you go, okay, sorry, really sorry, move on. But you don't need someone barking down at you, really, do you? Like you say, you don't know what's going on in that person's mind, who's made that little mistake, and we just have to have a bit more compassion. Um, I mean, it is like you say, it's kind of depressing going shopping because the atmosphere's low. I find there's not many people because people aren't interacting, people aren't talking as they might have before. People are sort of segregated in the way when we're all queuing up to go in the shops, um, and the atmosphere just seems very strange. I don't know if you feel that as well when you're out and
I
about.
do. I do. To me, it's really tough. If you even, so like we talked about, I had this little puppy, and I took her for a walk, and she accidentally, like, out of my control, ran over to someone and just wanted to give him a hello. And sure, I immediately went and got her, and I felt terrible, but they shrieked, and they literally curled up in a ball in their chair.
Really?
Um, yeah, and it just kind of made me sad that we're at the point that people are afraid of one another, and again, understandably so. But it's from a socialization. We're changing the world that my kids are going to grow up in, and that's a tough one for me. And so in my home, I've tried to help them appreciate the time that we have together and the people that are around us, and to never be don't ever take miss the opportunity to tell someone you love them, or you're appreciative, or thank you, or um, send a text, or write a note, or do all these little things that they can still do, that's not out of compliance with you, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, you're sending positive vibes effectively, aren't you, to them? And, someone else who you can't account for, who could react in a way that isn't totally right. Yeah, you can't stop that. But so long as you put the good message across to the kids, that's the main thing, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, because for me, what I realize is this is going to change their future. Like the way that they go to school, the way that they socialize, the way that they communicate. I mean, this has completely changed the world as we know it. And so I want to try and provide as much positive to it as I can.
Totally. And it's interesting. I mean, we've had the hottest day of the year today here in London in the UK. We've been hitting 80 degrees. Um, and we've had a change in lockdown rules. So now we're allowed to. So previously we weren't allowed. We were only allowed to go out once a day to exercise. Now we're allowed, and we couldn't travel far. Now we're allowed to travel, and we're allowed to exercise more than once a day. So what we've seen today is an influx of people to the coast. Beaches look absolutely packed. Um, Social distancing doesn't seem to be in effect. I mean, I've only seen a few pictures, so I can't comment if the pictures are telling the truth or not. But it looks pretty packed, and it looks like okay. We obviously we're social animals. We need to interact. We need to do this, but we don't seem to be adhering to things that may effectively stop the spread and stop lives being taken away, and that's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, I just went into Kirkland with my kids to actually go get a mask.
Which was
And
the epicenter, wasn't it, of the
it
outbreak
was.
in
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's this cute little boutique that we're still making masks, and I ordered one and I went to pick it up, and it's just a beautiful little spot when things do go back to whatever the new normal is. If you ever make it to Kirkland, and the waterfront's just so beautiful. We get an ice cream with the kids and we like sit by the waterfront. It's just great. But they were all properly social distancing, and I was the odd man out when my puppy like took off. Um, and the looks and the shrieks, and but yeah, so I would say that people are being more aware. We do a lot more walks here. We People are doing their social distancing walk and trying their best to keep somewhat normal
That's
relationships
good.
and schedules. Yeah,
Yeah. And then we get yourself, Holly, going the wrong way down the supermarket and the dog flying around the place.
exactly.
Oh dear.
Yep.
No, no, but I know you're doing much better than that. There's two
Yeah,
incidents.
that's
Oh,
right.
brilliant. So you mentioned the community side and you mentioned the social aspect of that. That's kept us going, hasn't it, through this whole pandemic? And so Twitter's a big thing for you.
It is.
I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I initially rejected Twitter. I was like, I don't know what this thing is, didn't understand it, and then I heard a few people saying, "Oh, they're getting lots of information from this." So, do you use that to promote, or is it a combination of promoting things and building relationships, the whole thing?
It's a funny story, and it's a longer answer than that. So I would say 4 years ago, I started a mentorship with someone who's now a dear friend of mine, Mary. And Mary said to me, "Okay, well, if you want to really be a community, manager, and you really want to promote yourself and find your voice and go and present, one of the first ways is finding the platform. What is your platform? So if you're tech, maybe your platform is GitHub. If you're more business focused, maybe it's LinkedIn. There's so many platforms out there, right?" And so she would always give me little homework projects, and I knew it was coming because I had said, no to Twitter for so long. And she said, "You need to go and open a Twitter account. And like, you need to become comfortable talking to multiple communities and really hearing your own voice and being okay with talking to different people out there, because if your voice is community passion, then Twitter's your platform." And so she's an amazing human and someone that I trust. So I went home and I did it, and I started to communicate with other people. And in my doing so, my network has grown extensively. And I have become okay saying, "This is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. This is my experience. This is my output. This is my point of view." And be respectful to feedback coming in, being able to zone some of it out. And so for me, I now use Twitter as a focal point for networking, community building, and it is just like a one-stop shop for me. I set a reminder every day on my calendar at 9:30, and I check the Azure Tech community and the Azure blog and Twitter, because those are the three main areas where I get my technical content, so that I'm aware of what's new, what's relevant, and what's top of mind for my various communities.
Yeah, and I mean, you hear lots of bad stories about Twitter, but the community that we're in, I never find anything negative about it. It seems to be a lot of people willing to help, all trying to get along. I've made a lot. You mentioned building relationships and making friends via Twitter. I mean, I'm in the same position as you there. Um, and we talk to people who we then suddenly go to an event and meet them and it could be years before we first meet them, but you feel you know them because you've spent so much time online chatting with them, and it's a great tool for that. And I think that's the right tool for us. It's definitely not Facebook for sure. um, it's definitely not LinkedIn. Twitter just seems to work, and it's a great tool. So I mean, have you always had positivity coming back from Twitter, or has there been any times where it's not been good?
No, I think that because of I believe that what you put out is what you get back in. And so I think for the people that are getting negative issues, well, there's two sides to that, I should say. They're probably putting something out there that is extremely opinionated and an extreme view, and maybe it's not said in a polite manner, right? Like it's any kind of a conversation, but it's done on a different platform. The only time, and I haven't had any issues with this, I can see how some, when you're really part of when you're very well known, I can see how people will take advantage of that and be unkind. So there is that level where it's not even your fault. You're getting DMs that you don't need. You're getting people that want to attack because you're well known or this and that, and that's out of anyone's control. But from my experience, it's been nothing but positive. I mean, I have Isadora. She just did a panel community session today on MS Build. She did an amazing job. We've become very good friends. I've connected with people within Microsoft that are in our CDA, the Cloud Developer Advocates, that I would have never typically met. I mean, they are all over the world and we talk quite often. I have people like Melissa Saucy, who's doing amazing things with Code the Cure within IBM, and we've become really good friends. And seeing what they're doing and how we're all able to respect each other, help promote each other, help each other be successful. These are humans I would have never ever met had it not been Twitter. And now we're all finding ways to build our own community and support each other.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool tool, and can you imagine this pandemic without the internet, without social interaction? It would have been I mean, how did they cope with this back in the Spanish flu days and 100 years ago? And we can get messages out quickly. We can communicate. This would have been an awful thing to go through without this connectivity, wouldn't it? Really?
We talk about that all the time. I mean, think about all of the people that I know that are not technical and now have had to ramp up to use Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Zoom seems to be the thing right now, but whether it's Skype or Zoom or Teams or whatever it is, we at least have some sort of virtual contact, keeping that humanization that we all need. And so we're really fortunate that during this pandemic, we do have all of these different methods of communication, whether it's social, whether it's, like I said, Microsoft Teams or Zoom or what have you. We're really fortunate that we haven't completely lost all contact with the world. So the things and the services that technology has brought us is, I think, keeping our minds a little bit more sane than we would imagine if we didn't have it.
Can you imagine if we were trying to do this on the old Nokia phones back
Oh
in the day?
goodness.
God. Oh dear. Holly, it's been a real blast chatting to you today. It really has, and I appreciate you coming back after our technical hiccup before. Um,
It happens.
Talking
It's
about the
okay.
socials. Oh, I know these things happen. Um, Talking about the socials, a perfect opportunity. What we tend to do at the end is, you can give us a shout out. Which, if people want to get in contact with you via social, what are your tag names and how do
I'm
they do it?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. It's my last name, Lehman _ Holly. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to grow my business network on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, if there's anything that I can ever help with, I would love to connect with you on either of those forums. It's been really fun doing this. I love being able to share different stories and humanize tech and show that there are skills needed out there that you might not know that what you are really profound with is needed in many companies, and to really hone in on that and be confident with knowing that that's a skill set that you have and it's valuable and it's needed. So, and I love my passion for community. So, being able to connect with you as an MVP is just makes my heart happy. So, thank you for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure, and it's nice to get to know you more, and keep the dog pics coming on Twitter as well.
I will. I didn't realize how many people would gravitate to those pictures, but I think those little pictures have brought a lot of people some happiness. So, yeah, it's worth it.
You can't beat some great dog and cat pictures that warm the heart, can you? Dogs splashing in puddles, all that sort of stuff.
It's
Brilliant.
the best.
Holly, thanks ever so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's so much fun. You take care and we'll be in touch.